Hello and welcome to Bike Rider Reviews. Today, just going to have a little informal chat about tips for planning a touring holiday on your motorcycle. But before that, roll the credits. Okay, first of all, I'm going to aim this mostly at touring around the UK. Obviously, it's the same for touring in Europe, or most of Europe anyway. But when you think back to when we were all newbies and we all started out, we all started with tours, or the majority of us, should I say, started with tours going around our own country. And quite rightly so, there's some beautiful countryside in the UK. Okay, so tip number one, don't worry about worrying. What do I mean about that? Well, when you're planning a tour, you can get into a state of mind where you're worried about everything, and it can affect all different stages. I know when I planned my first tour, I was worried, am I going to break down? Am I going to get a puncture? What if I can't find somewhere to stay? What if I get lost? There's a million and one things that you can worry about. And these can affect different stages of the tour. At the beginning, when it's just an idea in your head, it can cause you to overplan things so that you're completely too regimented with your planning. You're planning every day to the minute. So you're saying on day one, I'm going to set off, I'm going to get this village at 10 o'clock, I'm going to stop for a break, I'm going to continue to the next village, and I'm going to get this location for 1 o'clock where I'm going to have lunch. I've already pre-booked all my accommodation for every day throughout the tour, and it just puts you under a lot of stress. You're on the clock, you can't relax, and then it snowballs because if something does go wrong, or if you've overestimated how far you can travel each day, you're then worried about hitting your targets, getting to the hotel that you've booked, and it's just a poor way of doing things. So my best advice is, consider where you are. We're in the UK. We're not in Outer Mongolia. What is the worst thing that can happen if you break down? You're never more than 20, 30 miles away from a garage or somebody who can repair your bike, fix your puncture. If you're really worried about it, good advice, join a breakdown service. There's loads out there, AA, RAC, Green Flag. Lots and lots of breakdown services that you can use. What if you haven't got a phone signal? Again, it's the UK. You're not going to be far from a public telephone box. There's always going to be somebody passing who can stop and help you out. Just don't worry about it. I mean, when I look back on all the tours I've done in the past, some of my fondest memories have been when things actually go wrong, because it becomes spontaneous. Things happen that you don't expect. You may find locations, if you get hopelessly lost, your sat nav's not picking up, or your sat nav's broken, and you get lost, you might find a wonderful pub, a wonderful campsite, a wonderful beach. Who knows what you're going to find out there? So don't worry too much about breaking down or punctures or anything like that. Again, with punctures, if you're really worried about it and you're not in the AA, if you go on YouTube, there are hundreds and hundreds of how to fix punctures at the roadside on the motorcycle. It's not difficult. The next thing, over planning. Don't over plan. How I plan my routes is I look at where I want to go on the map. I then go on my sat nav and I look at the daily mileages for my complete loop, and I work it out. Say it's a 14-day trip, I work out how far I can get there and get back within 14 days, and then I take 5 days off. The reason I take 5 days off and I make my tour smaller by 5 days is it gives me 5 days to play with. That way I'm not worried that I'm going to miss certain points or times. If I break down, it's not a problem. I've got a day or two to fix it. If I get saddle sore and I feel like stopping, I can have a day wherever I want. If I come across a nice seaside town, I might think to myself, what, tomorrow I'm going to have the day off touring. I'm going to get up late, I'm going to have a walk down the beach, some fish and chips for dinner, go to the pub in the afternoon and just chill out. And you can do that because you haven't pre-booked all your accommodation, and you've got these 5 days to spare. The only thing that I will do, I don't do no planning at all, but what I will do, I will look on my loop that I'm going round, and I will perhaps plot 3 points on that loop, and I will say at some point during the tour I want to get to these positions. So, and I have them at least 3 days in between each one, and then that way I can take my time. It depends. If I want to get there quickly, I can get there in 1 or 2 days, and ride long days. If I want to spend time out, I can use 3 or 4 days, even 5 days to get to one of the points. And it just makes it more enjoyable. You're not on the clock, you're not stressed out. I don't book any accommodation. What I tend to do with my planning is that I'll split the loop that I'm doing into 3 zones, zone A, B and C. I'll go on one of these travel sites, TripAdvisor or something like that, and then for zone A I may look for 5 hotels, and they're not all in the same area. That zone A could be 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles, but I'll space them out around zone A, and I'll have 5 hotels for each zone, and they're just my fallback hotels that I know that if push comes to shove, if I'm struggling to get somewhere, I can get my phone out. I've got them saved in my phone. I can give them a ring and see if they've got vacancies. I've never used them up to yet. I've always got accommodation, especially in this country, even in high season. If you're going to Blackpool on a bank holiday weekend, then yeah, you're going to struggle. But you go 10-15 miles outside Blackpool, you'll get a B&B, you'll get a hotel, no problem whatsoever. So I've never actually used them, but it's always nice to have in your back pocket. Another reason I do this is when you're looking at the hotels online, there's normally a section that says things to do, places to visit, and you can look at all the things in the areas that you're passing through, and it gives you an idea of, if you want a day off, or if you're travelling up a road and you see a signpost, you think, oh yeah, I remember that, and it saves you from missing out on things. So you're not going in totally blind, and you get the most out of your journey without actually being regimented and planning it and being on the clock to the extent that you have to be in position A at such a time on such a date. So yeah, don't over plan things, but at the same time plan things a little bit. The other thing that we have to consider, be realistic with how far you can go. I mentioned at the beginning, if I was on a 14-day tour, I'd look at the distance I can do in 14 days, and then I'd look at the distance I could do in 9 days, and that's the loop I would do. Even though I'd got 14 days to do the tour, I would actually plan my loop that I could do in 9 days, because it gives me the extra 5 days to play with. You've got to be realistic. How can you be realistic? So for example, if you were touring in the Midlands, it's got good roads, good dual carriageways, good motorway links, so you could easily do 300 or 400 miles a day, not a problem. However, if you're on the North Coast 500, anybody who's done that, you'll know there are stretches of that road where you might only do 100 miles in a day. Single track roads, bad terrain, peak season, very crowded, camper vans, motorhomes. You could be going somewhere with bad terrain, so you've got to be realistic with the amount you're going to cover each day. The other thing to think about is your physical ability to travel distances. Hello, Noah. Noah the cat is under the table, everybody. He's come to say hello. You've got to be realistic with your physical ability, and it can take people by surprise. When I first started touring, I was riding my bike every day of the week. I was commuting. It was only sort of 20 minutes to work, 20 minutes to back. I was doing day trips at the weekend. I'd ride 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, and I thought I was fine. However, when you go on a road trip for 2 weeks and you're riding every day, if you're riding every day for 6 or 7 hours, you're going to get uncomfortable after about the second or third day. you know, and you're not going to want to do that kind of distance. And if you've planned that you've got to do 6 or 7 hours every day, then you're going to be disappointed and you're going to have to alter your itinerary. So, you know, keep that in mind. Don't try and do too much in too little time, and don't try and do too much for your riding experience. The other thing I'll look at touring, who you're going with. You know, I like to tour on my own. I like to tour with my wife. Out of all my friends, I've got many friends. However, there are very few that I would like to go on a tour with. That's no disrespect to them, that's because of how I am. When I tour, I like to be able to do what I want when I want. As I said, if I want to stop somewhere for a day, stop somewhere for a day. If I want an early start and get up to 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, I like to be able to do that. If I like a late start, I like to be able to do that as well. And unless you've got somebody who's really easygoing and you get on really well, that can be difficult because, you know, it can lead to stress on the tour. You know, perhaps somebody's taking more control, doing more than what they want, and you're afraid to speak up about it because you don't want to cause a scene. There's all different things that go on because, you know, you're in each other's pocket on a tour. There's no getting away from it. So you've got to be very careful with the type of person you're, whether you enjoy going with somebody else. The other thing to consider, you know, there are paid tours where you go away with a group of people, and it can be anything from 5 to 15 people. You know, I don't know what the numbers are. I've never done one. I've never felt the need. But just bear in mind as well, you know, when I was younger, I used to go on the scooter rallies and with all my crazy mates. We were only 16, 17, 18, you know, and there could be up to like 20, 25 of us going. And you know, everything is such a faff when you've got that number of people. You know, pulling into a petrol station to fuel up is a major operation. You know, not only just the time it takes to get all the bikes through the filling up process, but, you know, the guys who've gone through first and filled their up while they're waiting for the guys at the end who are number 14, 15, whatever, you know, they're sitting down, they're having a smoke, they're having a brew, somebody's gone to the toilet, you're getting ready to go, you're putting your helmet on, somebody's gone back into the petrol station buying fags, somebody's lost the keys, you know, and it just all snowballs, and it goes like that through all the day. You're riding along, you know, somebody wants to stop every 10 minutes to go toilet, somebody wants to stop every half an hour have a cigarette, and, you know, if those sorts of things aggravate you, then, you know, keep that in mind before you book one of these tours. Other than that, you know, if you don't mind that kind of thing, these tours are really good. You know, especially if you're not very confident, you know, having somebody showing you the way, having all the planning done for you. You know, it's whatever floats your boat, it's whatever floats your boat. It's not right for me, but it may be right for you. Practical things about going away that you can do. I've done a short video on this, how to pack a bike. One of the things that I noticed I missed out when I watched it back was, it's only a little thing, but it helps loads. When you pack the panniers on your bike, only fill them 3/4 full. The reason being, if you fill them to the brim and you stop at the side of the road and you want to get something from the bottom of your pannier, you've got to start taking kit out. Invariably you put it on your seat, invariably it falls off, it blows up the road, it gets run over, it gets wet, it gets dirty. You know, if you've only got your panniers 3/4 full, it's a lot easier to rummage inside, move things around inside so you can get to the bottom without actually emptying your kit onto the floor or onto the seat of your bike. So that's one little tip. Another little tip, most probably bike maintenance. We don't all keep on top of a bike maintenance. I do religiously now. I'm always checking my bikes every week, whereas when I was younger I didn't. And I can remember one of the early tours I did, it wasn't really a planned tour, it was a spur of the moment thing. I had to use my annual leave up. I'd got a week's annual leave left at work that I couldn't carry over, so I decided I was going to go away on my bike. I'd actually done a service on the bike about 3 weeks before, so I took that as, yeah, the bike is fine to go. The day before I was due to go, I took all the kit out to the garage. I thought I'll give the bike a quick once over, and as I was giving the bike a quick once over, I noticed that I'd got some wiring that looked discoloured. It didn't look right, it looked really brittle. I took the side panel of the bike off, and yeah, there was a electrical connector that looked as though it had fused together. I went online to see what the problem was. It turned out it was something that happens on older Pan-Europeans, which was the bike I was using at the time, and I needed to get a part called a red wire bypass kit. I think it wasn't much, about 15-20 quid, and it only took about half an hour, 40 minutes to fix. However, it was a bank holiday weekend. I couldn't get the part. I ordered the part. By the time the part was delivered, I'd only got 3 days of the tour left, and it just wasn't worth going. So if I'd checked that bike a week earlier or 2 weeks earlier, I'd have had plenty of time to rectify the problem, order the part, have it delivered and fix the bike, and I would not have missed my tour and wasted my leave. So, best advice coming up to a tour, if you're not one for keeping on top of your maintenance, 2 weeks before you go away, give it a good once over. 1 week before you go away, give it a good once over. Couple of days before you're due to go away, give it a good once over, and then the day before and the morning you go, obviously, again, give it a good check over. I can't really think of anything else at the moment. No doubt the minute I stop recording and I play this back, I will think of loads of other pieces of advice I could have given. But it's just a short video. I hope it was of some use. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. When I'm asking for these thumbs up and I'm asking you to subscribe, I'm not doing that because I want to do this as a profession or I'm a megalomaniac. I'm new to giving these reviews. You can most probably tell how terrible they are, and I just want some indication that people are enjoying them, that I'm not wasting my time. I know the only reason I'm doing this is I want to give something back to the biking community. If somebody watches some of my videos and it helps them with doing something on the bike, or buying a bike, or getting into biking, or coming back into biking, keeps the community going. That's all that I'm after with these videos. So, as I said, let me know if I'm doing an okay job. If I'm doing a rubbish job and everybody tells me that, I'll stop and I won't torture you anymore. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bike Rider Reviews out. Okay, back again. True to form, I watched the video back and then I thought of other things that I could have put on the video. Let's have a quick look at my list. Yeah, one of the things I never mentioned was these touring guidebooks that you can get. I find that those can really be helpful, and it makes a nice part of the tour. Not only in your pre-planning stage, but also when you're actually out on the tour. There's nothing nice at night than sitting outside your tent after you've cooked your baked beans and your bacon and your sausages, and sitting there with a bottle of beer, feet up, and you're looking through your touring book and thinking, right, tomorrow I'm going to go out and I'm going to visit this on my way to my next destination. And it's just something really chilling and relaxing to do. Nothing like a proper book to look through and plan your route. The other one is more on the practical side. A good thing to do is perhaps a week before you're due to go is get all your kit, pack it on the bike as though you were going to take it, and then go out and do a dummy run. Take the bike out for a couple of hours on varying types of roads, on dual carriageway, on the twisties, do some hill starts, getting it on and off the stand, because there's nothing worse than packing all your kit on your bike and then setting out on your tour and finding out that you have overpacked your bike and it's too heavy. It makes it a maul for the whole of the holiday, and you're running the risk of injuring yourself and then bringing your tour to an abrupt end. So yeah, do a dummy run with all your kit on. It's a good practical way of knowing what to take as well. 9 times out of 10 you'll find that you've got too much kit and you will have to take some weight off your bike. The other thing that I never mentioned was last minute nerves. Everybody gets them the day before or even on the morning that you want to go, and the nerves get the better of you and you think, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go. if that's the case, I mean, I know somebody who totally bottled it and didn't go. Right at the last minute, they were due to come touring with me, and they phoned me and they said, "Oh, sorry, Kev, I can't come." If you get to that stage, perhaps lower your ideas a little bit. So if you've planned a 2-week tour, or you've planned going over to Europe or anything like that, then perhaps just do a 2-day tour. You know, set out Friday night from work, pack the bike and just go somewhere local. Go camping, go to a hotel. What I would say is, if you're going camping, do at least 2 nights. That way you can see what it's like having to unpack all your kit, put your tent up, and then in the morning pack it all up, put it on the bike, and then repeat the exercise on the second night. And it just gives you an idea, because you can be in for a nasty shock. You know, if you've never packed a tent up in the rain, it's not fun. And believe me, you know, in the morning you get up, you're cold, I haven't slept very well, so you're tired, you're grumpy, and then you've got to pack your tent up and all your kit in the rain. It's a bit of an eye-opener. But at the same time, you know, later that day the sun might come out, everything dries up, you get to your campsite and then you unpack everything and everything dries out, and you know, you have the benefit of thinking, you know, this ain't too bad. You get some satisfaction out of it. So, you know, just lower your expectations. If you find yourself getting really nervous and you're not sure that you want to do this big tour that you've got planned, lower your expectations and just go for a weekend and build on it from there. The other thing as well is, what I do when I go on tour, I take a small journal with me, and at the end of each day I just sit down, spend 10-15 minutes, and I just write down what's gone on through the day, anything funny that's happened, anything that's gone wrong, describe places that I visited on the way, and just my general thoughts on the day's touring. Yeah, you can do your video diaries and things on your phone, but I just find it's nice that at the end of the tour, when you get back, perhaps a couple of days after you've got back and it all seems like a dream, you can actually sit down, bottle of beer, and just flick through and go over it and just look at all the memories that you've got from your tour. And you know, after you've had one of these for a year or two, you can go back last year, the year before, and you can look at tours, and you just get remembered. It just reminds you of things that you've forgotten, and it's a nice little touch. It's quite relaxing to do as well after a hard day's ride. Well, that's it. Nothing further to add, so I hope it's been of some help. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Bike Rider Reviews out.